Hello, everyone. Kenneth Ship here, back again to do another interview with our BluesGeek 2020 staff. I'm excited to be joined by one of my uh, co-writers, our dear Union, someone we've been practiced with a lot in other blues events, fellow competitor as well, gone against many times. A lot of fun. Uh, Ross Blythe.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Ross Blythe. I use he, him pronouns. I currently live in Chicago. Been pinged around the Midwest the last decade or two. Um, Happy to talk about sort of what I find important and how that'll apply to Blues Geek 2020.
Yeah. Um, Ross has been an instructor with us since the Nashville days, Mo Better 2017. So that was the last Mo Better year and the first hint of Blues Geek, and then, or I guess, sorry, not last Nashville year. It was the first hint of Blues Geek. It's been with us ever since. So the last two Blues Geeks in their actual name, and then joining us this year. So
Yeah, you can't get rid of me.
we don't want to. We don't want to.
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so uh, my segues into these softballs or to these has been absolutely abysmal. Just been absolutely terrible. So we're just gonna roll right into it. Um,
Sure.
how did you get into dancing?
Um, Very cliche. In college, I started dancing for a girl. There was a woman I was dating. Uh, my sophomore year of college. She was a fifth year senior and she was about to graduate. She liked to dance and I was hopeless. I come from a very waspy family, so dancing is not a thing. Um, she was doing a trip abroad and I wanted to surprise her when she came back. And she did some East Coast swing. Um, and there was a local swing dance club at Purdue. I knew some dancers and I was there over the summer and I figured why not? Um, she came back. We broke up because we weren't going to work out anyway. Like she had to go be a real person, and I still had 3 years of school left. But I loved dancing enough that I stuck with it and ended up getting pretty deep.
Pretty deep, you say?
Hardy har.
Oh Lord.
Hashtag awesome. Hashtag 420. Hashtag nice.
How many dances do you have under your belt?
Define under my belt. Um, I guess it depends on how you want to cut the swing dances. I feel pretty comfortable like going to a West Coast swing dance and fooling people for a little bit. Um, I've gone to a couple West Coast swing dances and like the older West Coast swing dancers, they're like, I'm not, you're different, but you feel great. Like you listen to the music, that's interesting. That's a novel concept. Um, Definitely like I do a. I think right now I'm the only dancer in Chicago that teaches and DJs for blues, balboa, and Lindy Hop. There are other dancers that do all three, but I'm the only one who teaches and DJs for each of the scenes. Still pretty active locally in each of them. I'm actually teaching a slow balboa class um, this coming month. Um, yeah, so like I mean, depending on how you cut the swing dances and how you want to cut the blues dances, I guess like I feel pretty comfortable with about 20-ish the idioms for blues. Four or five different swing dances, West Coast swing. Done a little bit of Argentine tango, not well,
Gotcha.
but I'm pretty good at faking aesthetics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got really solid partnership dynamics, so that always communicates well
Yeah,
across multiple disciplines. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I find you get a lot of forgiveness if you're at least comfortable.
All right. So let's pivot from dancing for just a sec. What's your
Sure.
favorite thing to do that's not dance related?
Um, Probably painting miniatures. So the complete sort of, if dancing is very active, the very sedentary meditative thing I do is paint primarily 28 millimeter scale historical figures. Um, I like history, so especially like the Agincourt period onwards. So those type of high Middle Ages, early Renaissance armies. Very interesting to me. Into the 30 Years' War. That period of history is just a mess, and for whatever reason, I think it's interesting. But it's pretty much everyone is dumb all the time, and I just find it's amusing when you have a religious war where it's like Catholic, like the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation, but then the Catholics end up funding the Protestants against the other Catholics, which I think just tells you a lot about how the world was working and what people's actual motivations are. But I like the miniatures from that period. It's just another way to access some of that history and think about it when you're trying to create a regiment and get the color scheme right. So there's a little bit of research on what is authentic to that time period. So like you're not Pink Army. You could, but just I like to have my minis look sort of tabletop appropriate or period appropriate. And that's a different point of view than something like sci-fi or fantasy. So historicals have a little bit more of foot in the real world. And that's something I like. It just gets to scratch some multiple itches.
Yeah. It's interesting you're saying the meditative piece on that. So like, do you feel like it's a great, feel like it's a good escape for you outside of like dance or work or?
Yeah. Just because you get to sit down and be quiet. I like to put on a show in the background or podcasts. It's nice to do something with my hands. And it's just nice to make something. And they don't take up too much space yet. Yeah.
Right.
And there's always like, it's really nice being a tabletop wargamer right now, just because everyone's making so many different kinds of models, and there's something out there for everybody right now. So many different kinds of games, some more historical than others, and even like getting into the sci-fi fantasy stuff. Like there's a game called Free Blades. So I mean, one complaint I've had with the hobby is it is very traditionally male and not terribly welcoming, and part of that is the miniatures, that they're very Eurocentric. If you do have things that aren't Eurocentric, they're often caricatures. But this company, DGS Games, they have a game called Free Blades, where there's a faction of more female presenting miniatures that are reasonably proportioned, that aren't like the 80s. Yeah. And they literally have a special rule where if they're fighting the patriarchy, they get bonuses. So there's the patriarchy is Romans riding dinosaurs, which aesthetically is a great faction. But if the Sisters of the Eclipse, if their matchup is against the Trazerites, they get a bonus. So I think it's nice that there's more of those kind of games out there that are not just, sort of the Warhammer 40K 80s style. And if you have like the Sisters of Battle, it's cringy. And I think more companies are coming around to that, which is good for the growth of the hobby and the inclusivity of the hobby. It still has its problems, but it's nice to see some things changing in the right direction.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you encapsulated that situation very well, and we've had conversations about.
We've talked about it, yeah.
Okay. What have you read, watched, or listened to recently that you really loved, enjoyed, or were affected by?
I guess maybe two things. One is I just reread N.K. Jemison's Shattered Earth trilogy. And even knowing what's coming the second time, it still breaks my heart a little bit. It's just such a well done. Hello, buddy. It's just such a well done story. And the other thing, listening to an interview with Ta-Nehisi Coates. I can't get enough of his interviews. Just like to me, sort of the obvious brilliance, but not. But it's not just like, hey, I'm smart, but just like the amount of. I try to think of the right words. It's like empathy and feeling he speaks with. It's obvious there's a great deal of care and like reading his writing. But he had an interview with Ezra Klein. He was actually interviewing Ezra Klein about a new book that Ezra wrote called Why We're Polarized. And I think that topic has been interesting to me the past couple of years, as I'm sure it is to some people. But it was just, again, hearing someone else I deeply respect as an intellectual coming in and giving his thoughts and feelings was, it's always enlightening just to sort of hear what Ta-Nehisi Coates has to think and what he has to say. Yeah. Always take time for that.
And I think a lot of his thoughts make you have to like sit in it too.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily that it's I mean, someone may take it as abrasive, but a lot of it is I'm presenting a lot of I'm not just rattling off facts, but I'm presenting things in a factual manner.
No.
But still with enough still with enough invite for you to like. I want you to come into this space and let's have a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It may be weird. Like maybe not weird. It just like my access to that. I think sometimes is complicated as a white dude, and with all that history. But I do find that sometimes as difficult as things he presents, I can sit with it. And I don't always know what to do with that information, but I appreciate what he's saying. Especially like, I think remember a quote he was talking about sort of like the wealth income inequality and that over time. And he said, what we're able to do now is sort of put words to the loss. And we've known it, but we've always felt it. We've never had the receipts. Well, now we have the receipts. And I just thought that was sort of a powerful statement, and that idea has stuck with me.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Take another sip of beer. Wait for the YouTube comments to pour in.
Yeah, they can deal with it. I got you. Yeah. All right. So, what about your day job? So.
Yeah. So. Day job's weird right now. All of SAP reorged. But by the time this is released, I'm currently a business process consultant, so I work with SAP Fieldglass. SAP is the parent. Fieldglass is the company I started with. We were acquired about 4 or 5 years ago. I think 5 years ago now. And day to day, I work on a variety of things. The thing I enjoy the most is we have a suite of recommended solution iterations, so by module and industry. So the space our particular application occupies is, and this is when everyone's going to turn this off, but the space that our application occupies is third-party temporary labor primarily. So an easy example is if you need an administrative assistant on a part-time basis, you might, or full-time, but just temporary. They're not a full-time worker. You might hire them for 6 months. They have a 6-month contract. It might be through a vendor like Tech Systems or another supplier, recruiter. But our app is the tracking, timesheeting requisition of that. We've expanded quite a bit.
It's a very non-conventional timesheet setup.
Yeah, and especially as more and more of the market has been moving that way. So independent contractors becoming a bigger and bigger part of what we do. The other big piece of that is so procurement. We are more people procurement, not goods procurement. So people procurement might be the state of California needs to lay 500 miles of wire. So redoing an electrical grid, working on something like that. So they have a certain budget. They have a project that needs to be done. They don't really care who does it. So they'll work with a group of vendors to say like, hey, this is a $10 million project. We need it done in a year. Do the staffing you need to do, but we'll keep that statement of work in our tool with all the associated billing pieces. And my part in that is like, how is the best way we set up that application? So we are highly configurable. We're not customized. The ideal project is we'll stand you up. We'll flip some switches, and then you should just transact. But because there are so many configurations and also differences by what country you're in, what industry you're in, what module you're using, I've been working the past few years, and we've got it live and we're running with it. But having a recommended configuration, you should use this out the gate. If you think you need to do something different, there's a very compelling reason why that is.
Yeah, yeah. It's like continuous troubleshooting and like adjustments and stuff along the way.
Yeah, so like with each of our releases, I review everything we have and see if there's new functionality that's come out, if we should include it or not.
Yeah, very cool.
That's the less glamorous part, but it's the necessary part.
Yeah. See, that wasn't bad. See, I mean, no one's listening now, but
no one's listening now.
But they're gonna come right back in.
Just like keeps clicking like 15 ahead, 15 ahead, 15 ahead. There it is. There it is. Now it gets interesting again.
Yeah, you're fine. Okay. Let's see. So we're both members of, as Jen Delk has dubbed it, Team Cardio.
Yeah.
What tips would you give to dancers out there who want to increase their conditioning?
Not to channel Shia LaBeouf, but just do it. Sort of I think an easy thing to do is like just pick a certain number of like squats, push-ups, just like a short distance. Let me take a step back. Maybe think why do you want to do some conditioning?
Yeah, yeah.
If it's, I want to be able to dance a couple songs in a row without feeling like death. Like especially if the music gets faster, like if you just want to feel capable, that's a lot of why I still work out. I don't have at this point, I don't have a particular physical dance goal. I just want to be capable. And also fun feeling, at least, is like when in prelims, if the judges want a fourth song, I don't want to be the one who's like, oh goddamn, no. It's like if it's the fourth song, I'm excited for that because everyone else is tired and I'm not, and that's fine with me. I think a good place to start, I would, if you have the resources, I would recommend doing 1 or 2 physical training sessions with a professional. And if you just tell them, hey, I want to work on a little bit of stability, I think stability is a big one, a little bit of cardio. I'm very fortunate that my gym has just free classes. That's just part of your membership. So I do yoga once a week, and that I find is incredible for stability and just even some endurance. There's a couple like boot camp style classes or high intensity interval style classes. Just being a little more active, I think, also helps with cross training. So if you want to get started with that, like if you have a gym and it's not cost prohibitive, if it is cost prohibitive, fortunately, we live in the age of YouTube where there is plenty of free online resources. And I honestly would just pick like squats, lunges, doing single leg squats from a chair. You don't even have to do a full single leg squat. Just if you're sitting down, try to stand up by pushing off of one leg.
Yeah.
And push-ups is just good for your core. Push-ups suck. Just
that they do.
Get over that they suck and do them. And I think even if you just do like a few of those a day for 5 minutes, it's good practice. It's using different muscle groups that you may not use in dancing. And it just, I think, makes you more able. It's not going to make you by themselves a better dancer, but it is going to make you capable of being a better dancer than you probably are now if you're not doing it already.
Yeah. I really enjoy having that power there and having those lungs to like to lean on. Like, so you think about that fourth song or just like if a band is really going and there's like they're gonna throw a couple fast songs, like I want to be able to like enjoy that experience and not feel like I just got my ass kicked.
I know, like not even to get on our scene a little bit, but I was teaching at Blues Through the Wintertime. Like the class I taught was how to dance to fast music, or like fast dancing strategies, and my blues library spans like 40 BPM on one level to like 280, 300 on the other. And if you go out to live music, it's not going to sit in the 70 to 120 BPM range, right? It's either going to be super, super slow, or it's going to be blazing, at least in Chicago. that it's and I think just having that ability in your back pocket is just going to make you appreciate the art form more because you have access to it. If you top out at 120 because it's too fast, you're just missing a lot of good stuff that's there.
Yeah.
Like there's so much good stuff that's there we just don't get to because that's sort of not the current musical norms of the scene.
Yeah, we gotta push them further.
I don't know if you agree or disagree.
No, I completely do, because there's so much I want to play, and I'm like, I would kill you all. It's like, like I can sprinkle it in, but I can't really commit to long periods of time with it because it's asking for a disaster.
I mean, in fairness, like it's canned music versus live music. Like live music is always going to pull a little bit more, but yeah.
Well, let's keep talking about music. So we end up, you and me, Tom DeGrow, end up talking rap quite a bit. So I would love to know, and you said you had some opinions, so I'm very curious how you're going to go on this question. Who has been your favorite modern rapper, duo, or group, and why? And you don't have to answer all of those. You could pick one. Or
well, I will say for modern American rapper, I really like J. Cole. I've been really enjoying listening to Revenge of the Dreamers 3. Like that entire tape has been great, and it's not J. Cole on all of them, but I found Joyner Lucas late, and I think the song "I'm Sorry" really punched me in the gut. I wasn't quite prepared for what that was. I've been listening to a lot of UK music, actually. So, like, I'm gonna jump across the pond. I've been really big on UK R&B, Mahalia, and just on repeat. If you haven't checked out Mahalia, please do. I think Love and Compromises is her debut album, and it is fantastic. I actually beefed up my Soul collection so I could play at Bluetopia's Soul Night just so I could sneak in some Mahalia tracks because I'm like, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's appropriate. But the big thing I have opinions on right now is actually the grime scene in the UK. Because the artist I like a lot, not because mostly just entertainment. Like I just sort of like the whole package is Stormzy. And started with the song Vossi Bop. I'm a little late to the party. But I think the song Vossi Bop is just great. Just a great jam. Got his album Gang Signs of Prayer. And then he recently released an album called Heavy as the Head. So what the interesting thing, I think this is an interesting tie-in. One of the reasons I like rap and hip hop, and also listening to like Hip Hop DX, they have a bi-weekly video, I think, called The Breakdown. Started with Justin Hunt, Paige Kennedy, I think is the current host, and then Murs was the interim, or I think his usual host, Paige Kennedy, is just taking over for a little bit. There's a lot of conversations they have about authenticity, which mirrors a lot of the conversations we have, just in a different lens, right? But so on that note, and why I'm interested to talk about this a little bit, is Stormzy is like 26. He makes me feel like shit, like because he's probably, I think, one of the biggest artists in the UK right now. But he's done a couple collabs with Ed Sheeran, which has caught him some flack, especially from Wiley, who is the godfather of grime, or at least is sort of regarded as the originator, godfather of the UK grime scene, along with a couple other. I think Dizzy Rascal is another one whose name gets brought up in those conversations. And so they started beefing early January. And so what culminated in what I think is what I've been excited to listen to is sort of because this is the only rap beef I've really cared about in real time. Like I'm always too late to the party to, listen to or hear or care about the other ones.
It's like most recently it's been NBA stars doing some dumb crap like the last 3 or 4 months. Hasn't really been anything interesting. Unless it's
the last
Eminem
interesting one to me
people.
was like Eminem, Machine Gun Kelly, but then Drake and Pusha T with the story of Adion. Like that's a great one. But this one just escalated so heavily it was amazing. So Wiley releases Idiot Skangman 1, which is his war dub against Stormzy, and Stormzy drops a track called Disappointed. Um, which one of the lines in that song is, "I'm so big, the only thing bigger than me last year was Brexit," uh, which is just great, right? Uh, so apparently, though, Stormzy did that beat over a drill beat. Um, so Wiley sort of took him to task for that, and so he releases Idiot Skangman 2, and in that track, he basically says, "If I see your mother in Croydon Market, I'm going to rip the weave off her head." And Stormzy releases a follow-up track to that called "Still Disappointed." So just the naming game is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and he basically then goes after Wiley's entire family in the first verse, and then focuses on his mom, um, by saying like, "You want to talk about mom so much? Where's yours?" Um, and
Ooh.
then basically he said like, you couldn't protect your mother. You had to move her to Cyrus because you weren't man enough to protect her. So the entire rest of the track is just Stormzy ripping into Wiley for. Oh, it's fantastic. One of my favorite lines was, "One day there's Dons at the door, the next day Heathrow Terminal 4," which is just, it's good. It's
Yeah, yeah.
fantastic. And he's just, he has and all this is so much more personal because Wiley, Storm's song called Wiley Flow, his, he intended it as an homage to Wiley. And he has a line in there called, "Sip and Tetley take a toke." So the entire time he's on this diss track, he's got a cup of tea in one hand and a blunt in the other, just sort of like, and it's just such this cool aggression thing, which is just so good. Um, and then, he's like, that was it. Like Wiley released Idiot Skangman 3, but it was pretty much over. And Stormzy
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, he started off still disappointed by saying like, "One more dub, then it's back to business." Um, like he's like, I just, and he was had an interview, stateside, um, I think with Rosenberg, with that hip hop station, and basically just addressed it like, I'm done. Like I don't know what else you want me to say. Like if he releases another, like I just released an album. Like I'm touring, I'm promoting. Like, I've got a life to do. Like I'm sorry, this 40-year-old man thinks he has to pick fights with my 26-year-old self, but here we are.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing how I will say like it's amazing how most recent beefs just fizzle out like that.
yeah.
Yeah, like we get
I
some
think
great.
some of it is.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, yeah, part of it is like Wiley actually broke into the mainstream with um, non-grime beats. So some of this is all interesting, like with the authenticity conversations. Wiley's like, "Well, you're not doing just grime stuff," and Storms is like, "No, I don't care if you call me pop. Like, I know where I came from. I know what I'm doing now." Um, but even like Wiley's most recent song, I think that hit big was "Boasty," where Idris Elba was on that track, and that was pretty incredible. Idris Elba, Stefflon Don. Stefflon Don is pretty great. I like her stuff. But yeah, UK scene's interesting right now, man. UKC's
Okay,
interesting.
I'm enjoying this because you're giving me some extra stuff to listen to. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, again, like what's wrapped up in there is sort of like, are you or are you not this thing? Like, because you have, some camps are like, because you do these other things, you're not part of the grime scene. And I think that is the interesting retort in one of Wiley's dubs is, if if you keep moving weird around us, we're going to change the lock to the keys you hold. Basically, like if you keep like stepping out of line, you're no longer part of the culture. Um, I'm not trying to come down on that one way or the other, because A, I'm across the pond, B, I'm not a part of that scene. I think it is interesting, right? Just, you know, similar conversations happen in a lot of different arenas.
yeah, I mean that's where hip hop is at right now. Like there's a lot of different factors
Yeah.
we could talk about hip hop right now, but the conversation is um, commercialization has been good in the sense of people getting paid, people getting
Yeah.
recognized, music going across the globe. But it also means that being the holders of the keys and or like the ideological purity is just not. It's not about not being there anymore. It's a matter of like is that a requirement? Is that a requirement that needs to be there going forward? And like, when have you gotten too far off that it's not recognizable anymore?
Yeah.
Like, and again, being into factor and factor and factor and factor, like that's, yeah.
Well, it's even like, yeah, at what point is the drill beat not hip hop? And I don't know the answer, right? But it's something like that where, to my untrained ear, they sound similar. But yeah, when someone can go after you, like, okay, you sent me a diss track using a drill beat, not a grind beat. Is that not appropriate? Yeah, it's, yeah. Thoughts.
Thoughts. That's fantastic.
Yeah, sorry, that went a little long.
Yeah.
I have feelings on the UK scene. I think it's shit's happening. It's fantastic right now.
So actually, we're gonna show some photos real quick.
Cool.
To be a little obvious, one to be obvious, kind of just talking about your past. The other one, I was even struggling to remember how we got into said position.
Yeah.
So we'll start with some. Actually, let me make sure I show to you. Mm-hmm. All right, and for everyone to see. All right, so what's going on here?
Yeah, so I fenced in college for a couple of years, competitively on our club team. We were the best club team in the Midwest, and I think this picture was from Notre Dame duels. It was either duels or Midwest finals. So I fenced saber was my weapon. So that's you can tell because of the shape of the bell guard. Because there's actually a bell guard, which comes down to cover the knuckles and then has a bit of a flare on the back to protect the hand. So this one was, I think it was my attack, and that person was attempt parry. So my blade is the one that's going forward, and you see that person's blade has slid up to the bell guard, and that's where I don't remember if I landed the touch on that one, but that was a fun one. Duels was fun. Unfortunately, I think that was the end of college for me. So I'd taken some time off dancing, and I was getting back into dancing at this point. So
yeah. Then
I still finished the year with a positive win-loss ratio, which is I was fine with.
yeah. Got to go out on top, or
yeah.
You don't want to leave the sport with a losing record. I get you.
Right.
So, and then we're gonna switch to photo number 2.
Yeah. So this is what I think happened. So I was the comp DJ for Sweet Mo. One of them, not the only one. And I picked the music, and I think they were talking about music, and I don't know why you and I were doing squats. I think we were both just like, we were probably drinking.
Yeah, that's at that time. This was late night. Yeah.
This was late night.
Yeah.
We were probably drunk, and someone was. Okay, so here's my thing with comp music. I will never choose songs for comp music that I wouldn't be happy dancing with. They might be hard, but they're songs that I feel strongly about as being good music. So I think we were talking about comp music, and I was just like, this is good, and you should like it.
Yeah.
You should like that I picked these for you. I seem to recall that being like, and then we started doing squats to like, because one year I did, Lainey and I did squats before we competed. So I think they were harkening back to that, and we just started doing squats again. I don't know why my arms were above my head, but I'm pretty sure, again, liquor was involved. Liquor was mostly involved.
Liquor is always involved. Dun, dun, dun. Although, actually, it makes me think about Let me see if I can find it super quick. Da, 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 da. Reminder yourself to edit out the dead air. Da, 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 da. Where is it?
Going back in time here.
Oh yeah, we're going back in time. Assuming I can actually. Da, 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 da. Wow, was it that long ago?
What are you looking for?
It was this progression. I was laying on a table, and
oh, is this from
was it
Mez Jelly?
Yeah.
Yeah, shit. What year was that? That was 2017.
Ooh.
I think I DJ'd something for that, so I'm gonna see if I can find it. At least find the year it was. No, Pirate. Was that 16? No, maybe that was 18. I know what you're talking about.
Or how about I'll look at photos we're tagged in together. I think that might.
No? What year was that? Man, that feels like a long time ago. That wasn't that long ago, though.
Let's see.
No, maybe I wasn't a DJ for that event. I was just a teacher.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that was. Found it?
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. So, all right, we're gonna throw this photo in for just a sec. I don't know what I was doing. I was just hanging around. But then, oh, what the hell? Ignore the dinosaur. Getting some accolade from Ross, I suppose.
I don't remember exactly what I was trying to do. If I was just like this dude, I think you were lounging in a particular way, so the pointing was like, "Yo, this specimen."
And then we get a brass, almost perfectly inserted, right there at the end. Almost like
just don't tell him.
Yeah. No promotion for his Boston event. I'm kidding, Zach. If you're listening to this,
Yeah, Boston can get it, but just remember that Midwest is best. At least so saith the backwater comps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not to toot my own horn, but a Rudy toot.
So yeah, you got first for leaders.
Yeah, Sarah got first for followers. Andy Hansen took third for followers, so 50% ain't bad.
Yeah. Pretty great. Making us proud. I'm
trying every day.
Cool. Well, that's a great segue back into dance. Being a fellow leader, I know we've talked lead philosophy quite a bit. I wanted to ask, like, what are your lead pet peeves?
I think I have more. I'll do it this way. I have lead pet peeves. I don't have very many of when I'm dancing with a partner, right? So I don't have many pet peeves of what like followers are doing. One is I joke in slow ball especially. I have literally one rule, and that's don't step before I do. That's it. That's a slow ball rule. Just because different people train in different musical tempos. So if you're used to dancing fast all the time, you're a little more on top of the beat than I'd like. More of my like pet peeves of different leaders. Come here, buddy. Hey, buddy. Is not dancing through your turns, and I don't mean like necessarily doing a lot of solo movement or a lot of inner body movement while you're leading a turn. I just mean like hanging out. I think it matters to me a lot that the lead is an active body, that you are someone who dances as well as gives direction.
You don't get to just check out. Yeah.
Right, or just it's one thing if you're doing like a quick turn and there's no like stepping through that, but I should see your body being active. Like I should see you being engaged through the turn. You don't just say like throw the arm up and drop it, right? Like I should see a flow of energy. I should see connection through that turn. Like one thing I pride myself on being able to do is manipulating turns while they happen. And like molding the energy, shaping the energy, being active throughout that, and being someone who can be felt while they're turning. And that's something I'd like to see more of in the scene, is just sort of that emphasis on being like a dancing body as well as being a leading body. Just because you're part of it, and like leads can lead things and leads can do things. Just because you're leading content, I think doesn't mean you're not leading blues, or doesn't mean you're not giving your partner a voice. I just think we should explore more like how leads can be active in the dance and not overpowering.
Yeah.
I think that is a fine line to walk, but one thing I've been super interested in recently is trying to better articulate leading as an active skill and not like a series of don'ts. Yeah. Like the joke being like, I'd like to explain leading theistically and not atheistically. Like I'd like to explain leading in terms of what leading is and not leading in terms of what it isn't.
Hey, atheism is just a position that does not. Never. Yeah. So I can feel my Matt Dillahunty like pulling out of me for a second there.
I know. I'm just I'm parroting a position I heard quoted at me in college, but I find it. But it, I would like to talk about leading as an active skill, not a passive one. And I think in general we understand it that way. I do think there are some individual hangups, not individual. I think there are some like larger hangups that we just need to be frank about, and not that leading isn't a bunch of these things, but leading is a oh man, I'm gonna stick foot in mouth. Again, I just think that being a dancing body as well as leading body, that you don't have to be one or the other. It's not enough to like hold hands and do solo movement at each other. You can if you want, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're both having a good time and artistically expressing the music. What keeps me practicing my craft is how can I do that while working with another person to make something. And that's a very active process that isn't a deeply passive one, I hope.
Yeah. Would you say that relates to your personal authenticity in the dance?
I think so. I feel like, and whether or not how grounded this in reality, I think people can debate. I feel like let me put it this way. My personal struggle has been balancing doing the motions with a partner that I feel are appropriate for is what I think sort of the tastes of the time have deemed are appropriate, like overleading or having too much content. That is a journey that I'm on always, trying to authentically express the music, but also trying to sort of push what is accomplishable socially, and what is appropriately accomplishable socially. Those targets sometimes change event to event for me. Like Backwater is great because I think ballroom opens up a lot of the stuff that is sort of, to me, unquestionably interesting. And when I say unquestionably, also doesn't get counted as overleading, because context is very important. But then also, like if I go to Brickyard or if I'm at a more chicken-focused event, what counts as sort of complex partnered interplay without deviating from what the root of the dance is, or sort of what the cultural hallmarks of the dance are, if that word soup meant anything at all.
No.
Yeah, so that's my journey. And I tend to fall on the more content than less. Again, like even in close embrace, being active, not overpowering, that's different, but being active, being present, being someone you can play off of, being someone who has a voice in the dance, and that isn't just a set of directions.
Okay. Um, ooh, lost a little bit. Give me a second.
It's okay, you've had a beer.
And a very thick beer at that. Could you could you repeat your last sentence for me real quick?
I think again being like a not an overpowering presence, but an active presence, someone you can play off of. They're there with you. Like I'm not just a set of directions. I, I'm a set of ideas. Like I come to the dance from a position that I hear the music as well. And again, not that it's pulling my partner off or overpowering my partner. Like that conversational aspect is deeply important to me. Making sure that my partners feel heard and responded to, but I also want my partners to have something to play with.
Yeah.
I'm not just a blank slate. I am a personality. When you dance with me, I hope it feels like you're dancing with Ross. You're not just dancing with whatever body's in the room.
Mm-hmm. Uh, well, I was gonna ask you about your practice time, but I don't know. That kind of feels like a really solid. It feels like a really solid bow. So I'll leave it to you. If you want to talk about how you deal with that in your personal time or in competitions. So the question was like, how do you wrestle with this theme in your practice time or
Yeah.
competitions? But
I mean, I'll say in general, like I approach when I do my solo practice, I sort of approach it as, in principle, could this be partnered? Like if I'm doing solo work and trying to move different parts of my body, in principle, I think to myself, how would this partner? Um, I'm not a huge solo dancer. I can do it. I primarily like to again dance to Mahali in my kitchen, or like put on NAO and or sort of like Vossi Bop and dance in my kitchen. So that's a different thing I like to do. That helps me feel a little more myself too, just because these are things I unquestionably enjoy, and it's a different set of targets. Like I'm just trying to move to see what falls out. Um, but I think the big thing I come back to uh, is what feels like my movement. And again, part of that is influenced by I'm a pretty active Balboa dancer. I'm a very active Lindy Hopper. These things are part of who I am, and they don't. I don't say they stop at blues dancing. They become filtered through that aesthetic lens. So if I'm trying to do different ideas in either ballroomin or Chicago triple or anything else, where I start to roll my feet a particular way, my goal is to keep those things feeling aesthetically like the dance I'm doing, even if mechanically I'm pulling from different sources.
yeah,
So that's a lot of what I think about is, again, like what feels like my movement. But part of to me that authenticity thing is like I'm not just doing me for the sake of doing me. I'm doing me in a context, and that context may shift, but I still want to feel that I'm a dancing body coming from a position,
yeah,
or like I'm a dancing body with a personality. Um, that personality just needs to fit the context and the time and place it's being done in.
So would you say that's something that would you encapsulate that as something you want your students to get? It doesn't. I mean, we've been asking people just from Geek, but
Yeah.
It sounds like that would be something you want your students to get, particularly leads
Yeah.
across events.
100%. I mean, I think a lot of the basis for understanding personal authenticity, and I've been thinking a lot about this. Um, some portion of it, I don't know if it's all of it, but I think a lot of it comes out of understanding what you can do. And you may want to express, and I still find this, right? Like there's something that's a complicated rhythm, or there's something that goes by and that I wanted to address it in some way. And I'm not there yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Or, um, and I think to me, that's the journey, is like becoming more capable. And being capable could mean different things, right? I don't mean capable at a like a triathlon level, or capable of like join us on team cardio. Let's run, a marathon before the dance, and let's go do push-ups. Now let's dance. I just mean like your ability to your satisfaction, or at least in the direction that you want to go, express what you're hearing and feel like that you're connected to the music in a way that feels very comfortable and you. And I think a lot of that starts with what I would want people to take away from the weekend is learning to understand where they are at in that journey. Do I understand what I'm hearing? Can I express it? Am I engaged in it? Or is this passing me by? And I don't want to come down morally or existentially one way or the other, right? If you're here to have a good time, and that's as far as you've got, and you just want a few more tricks in your bag, fantastic. Like whatever makes you enjoy being a part of this community. But I think understanding maybe a different level, what are you capable of? What do you want to be capable of? What are you trying to express, either soloed or partnered? And I am always excited to talk about those sort of goals. What are you at now? What do you want to do, and why? And that's been a lot of my journey. Is these are the things I can do. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at, and sort of deciding like if I'm not good at the things, do they matter to how I want to be expressive? And sometimes the answer is no. I know I'm not good at this thing, but I'm not a solo competitor. I also don't want to be. And that's okay. That's not how I want to express. Socially, I want to be able to dance solo, have that be okay. Maybe one day that'll change, and that's then a different journey I'll take to finding out what it means to be as a solo dancer, not me as a partner dancer.
Yeah, but not being a pressure to do that.
Yeah. It's what do you want to do, and what, not to be glib, but sort of Marie Kondo way, what sparks joy, and what would you like to spark joy? This dance art form has a rich, complicated history. How do you want to access it? And where do you maybe feel like you're not accessing what you want to access?
Nah, that's getting goosebumps over here. No, I like it. Good. Wow. Yeah. I'm not gonna ruin it by adding anything.
Okay.
I think you've got it. I think that's a fantastic thing for. Actually, you gave them more than one thing to get out of the weekend. You gave them multiple things they could pull out. So that's excellent.
Yeah. I'm available for private lessons.
hey, we're not above instructor plugs.
Yeah, not above shilling myself out for.
All right, so we'll wrap up with two things. So the internet needs to know once and for all: are you actually a good Midwestern boy, or is it all a hoax?
Depends on who's asking. I am a good Midwestern boy. I don't even know what I mean by that most of the time. I think because, I grew up in a very waspy family. Sometimes the blues scene is a bit of a culture shock for a lot of different reasons. And if I'm slow on the uptake on anything, it's just because people are at different places and things are new in different ways.
Yeah.
But I think the good Midwestern boy, not maybe the stereotypical unfortunate Midwestern boy, is I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And if I don't like you, it's for a good reason. But in general, I'm here for this. And so yes, probably depends on the context. But I love a good dick joke. It's not the next person. So I'm not above 12-year-old humor.
All right, that's totally becoming a GIF. I'm gonna GIF that. All right. And last thing, we've been building a playlist of our staff's favorite blues songs, or ones that are really jamming on right now. So it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like your all-time favorite. Can you give us one to add to the list, and why do you like it?
Oh God. Can I give you two, or do you really just want one?
I mean, two is fine. Help.
Uh,
It'll make it a
well,
fuller playlist. So that
yeah. Um, I'm not sure it's blues. It feels like blues to me. I haven't actually counted the chord structure.
good
So
lord.
just what do you want?
No. It's
um,
I'll put a disclaimer on this one so people are aware of like just brace yourself for how nerdy it's gonna get.
yeah. Well, just because, like, well, this is the fun thing with slow jazz, right? Or like tunes of that era, where you have things that are labeled like Jeep's Blues is a blues song. It's in a blues structure. Um, the song I love, and I just keep coming back to, is called "Shake 'Em Up" by Buddy Johnson and his orchestra.
Hmm.
And I love it because it's just it starts with this sort of bom, ba dum, ba dum, ba dum, then horns, just ba da 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 da, and then saxophone, wah wah wah, and just like the entire song is about 3 minutes of just in your face, jazzy ass, crazy good music, right? It's just a full, powerful song.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones that I think it can be felt by different people in different ways. So I have it listed in my playlist as sort of like a Savoy Walkie, like flash and trash, just because there's so much oomph to it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's pretty sedate too. So it's not like you're trying to race to get anywhere, despite all the energy in the song. It's just one of those that sort of, to me, contains some contradictions. Um,
How
yeah.
many how many times did you play it during Backwater?
Once.
Okay. So you
I
restrained
try to
yourself.
for all my music, I try to only play them once a weekend. Granted, I did play it in 2019, but it was at a different set at a different time. So I think I played it early in the night 2019. I played it later at a late night set 2020. Um, I try not to repeat music too much between events because there's a lot of good music. There's only so much time to play it. Um, I have a lot of feelings about ballroom and blues, or like the jazzy idiom stuff. But Shake
Yeah.
'Em Up is one of those I have a hard time getting away from because it is just everything it should be. And I got that actually from, I heard it, Will Glussman, I should quote my source,
Ah.
played it in Chicago. He's one of our Bluetopia DJs. And um, every now and then, just Will shows up and he goes on a deep dive and he comes back with just crazy new stuff. So Shake 'Em Up, mm, highly recommend.
All
Real
right.
good. The other one I keep coming back to is a Donnie Williams song. As far as I can tell, this guy only ever recorded, I think, two songs. Um, but what it was off an album, it was from Memphis. What was it? Fernwood Rhythm and Blues from Memphis. So it's this little studio, and they've got a couple. Most of the album, like I wouldn't play it in an event, but some of the songs are just real good. And Donnie Williams has a song called "Mr. B." Um, that I actually love for strutting. I think it's really great. It's got uh, some different instrumentation. It's got a nice chug. Um, it's one of my favorites. It's real good.
Excellent.
Just different ends of the spectrum. So if Shake 'Em Up is sort of a more sedate 80-ish BPM ballroom, and Mr. B is about 140 BPM, saxophones, guitar, nice chug, jazz organ, just ba ba.
Yeah.
And again, like Donnie, as far as I can tell, only recorded ever two songs. Both of the two he recorded were good. So
Excellent.
yeah,
Uh, well, so if y'all been following along with us, uh, as you've been following that playlist, it'll be available on Spotify. And for any songs that aren't available on Spotify, we'll provide links to where you can find those on the Ujima page and website as that playlist comes out. Cool. Ross, thank you for your time. That was that was fantastic, good sir.
Yeah, hopefully this was interesting listening. I fell down a couple rabbit holes.
Yeah, it's quite all right. But I mean, again, we're hoping this will give a lot of people a better feel for who you are, and like if we're asking people to be vulnerable for personal authenticity, I think it's only fair to also the people that are going to be asking them to get into that, opening themselves up as well. Cool.
I feel that. Yeah, totally. 100%.
Cool. All right. Well, signing off. Thank you.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
And,